Welcome to the Candidates Forum for the San Bruno Park School District Governing Board. First, I have some announcements. Please turn off your cell phones so the candidates are not interrupted when they speak. No campaign literature or other material is permitted in the room. And are you Mr. Murphy? Yes. Well, okay, we will begin again. I am Ann Cutchins, a member of the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County. I'd like to thank the San Bruno Park School District for sponsoring this forum tonight. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization of both men and women whose purpose is to promote active and informed participation in government. We appreciate the interests and efforts of groups such as San Bruno's Park School District in presenting events that increase voters' knowledge about the candidates and issues. The purpose of tonight's forum is to provide an opportunity for all the candidates to be heard at one time and to be questioned by you, the audience. We hope that by bringing the candidates and voters together face-to-face, voters will be better informed and will make wise decisions on Election Day. We appreciate your interest in coming out to learn more about the candidates. Tonight you will hear from the candidates for the San Bruno Park School District Governing Board. There are 4 candidates for 2 seats. The term of office is 4 years. In the interest of time and fairness to the candidates, please hold your applause to the end of the forum. We can thank all of the candidates with our applause at that time. The purpose of this event is to provide the nonpartisan setting to let undecided voters hear all the candidates and to help them choose. It is not for the supporters or opponents of any particular candidate in the audience to demonstrate their own personal preference. The candidates in alphabetical order are Ms. Jennifer Blanco, Mr. Kevin Martinez, Mr. Andrew Mason, and Mr. Chuck Zelnick. The rules for the forum are as follows. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. During the question period, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. All candidates will have an equal time to speak to the question, even if the question is addressed to only one candidate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Our timekeeper is Marie Baldessari. The timekeeper will hold up warning signs when the candidate has 1 minute, then 30 seconds left of the allotted time. At the end of the time, the timekeeper will hold up the stop sign until the candidate quits speaking. Questions from the audience will be in writing. The usher has cards for you to write down your questions. Raise your hand, and the usher will bring paper and pencil to you. Please write legibly, and keep your questions brief. Questions of a personal nature and personal invective will be out of order. Our usher is Mary Nobriga. Please raise your hand when you are ready to have her pick up your question. All questions come to me, and I will sort the questions by subject and try to cover a variety of subjects. We seldom have time to ask all questions, and I will rephrase and combine questions at times. We will now begin with opening statements. The candidates have drawn lots to determine the order in which they will speak. Each candidate has 3 minutes for the opening statement. Our first candidate is Mr. Chuck Zelnick.
First off, thank you to the League of Women Voters, the San Bruno Park School District, and the community of San Bruno for their participation within the election process here in San Bruno. I want to give you a little bit of a background of myself. I've lived in San Bruno for 31 years with my wife Susan and our 2 children, CJ and Amanda, who both are products from the San Bruno Park School District, who proceeded to be successful through high school, college, and in their professional careers. as individuals. I have a lovely daughter-in-law, Kaylee, and my 3-year-old grandson will be starting in the district 2 years from now. I served on this board from 2001 to 2007, and at that time we've always had troubles with finances from the state, always never giving enough money to schools. But we overcome those issues, and that's what we're here to try to do in this upcoming election, is establish a budgetary system so that we don't have these deficits year after year after year. In closing up my introduction type remarks, I would just like to say that in tonight's process, you already should have a ballot in your home, and you may have taken it out and vote today, or there's other endorsements that come on later in the week. But give a good thought to who you're voting for, what you want the future of San Bruno to be, because the elected officials that will serve on your behalf in the school district will be the ones helping to make that important choice for your children to be successful in their personal lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Mr. Andrew Mason.
How's it going? I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters as well. I'd also like to thank my fellow San Bruno residents and my mother-in-law for watching our 3-year-old son this very evening so I could attend this event. My lovely wife is here as well as a number of supporters of my campaign. I can't thank you enough. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Martinez, California. It's a small refinery town. I'm one of 7 kids. So I know how to work in teams and work together, and I think that's a huge part of school districts. I've had a job since I was 15 in a bank account, so I understand about money. I think it's really important that we, as Chuck mentioned about, fiscal responsibility and managing costs and whatnot. I've had every job since from fast food to pharmaceutical manufacturing to working at the airport and to working in a weekend wedding hall in college. I'm really proud of my work life. I think it provides a healthy balance to the discussion of schools, because a lot of it is your life story and what you've done on this planet. It's really important to share that with new generations. My wife and we have a 3-year-old son, and we're very concerned about the district. And not to go into the weeds about it, but you can all read the papers. But what I'm here to do is offer a new vision. I have 16 years in biotechnology. I believe that technology is the way of the future. Education is so important as far as STEM education, language education. 25 years ago, this society was filled with plenty of middle-class jobs, and we only spoke one language, largely. That's clearly changed. The future is very different than the one we grew up in and the one that the past generations have grown up in. And I really think that you need somebody on the board who can speak well to those issues, science education, language, and whatnot. So thank you very much. It's a real honor to be up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ms. Jennifer Blanco.
Good evening to everyone. I just want to take this opportunity before I read my opening statement to the League of Women Voters and to our wonderful school district for sponsoring this program for our community members, and also I thank the members at home who are watching this, and also for all the community members who are here to ask us questions. My name is Jennifer Blanco, and for 19 years I have been involved in our community. For the past 8 years, it has been my honor to serve as your trustee. Previously, I was the area counselor for all San Bruno PTAs, where I mentored, supported, provided guidance, and two-way communication between our school district and the 17th PTA. I was a Culture and Arts Commissioner for the City of San Bruno, appointed by City Council. I supported sponsoring cultural performances during community events with the Chamber of Commerce. I advised City Council on purchasing the statue in front of the library on El Camino Real and the gateway signs into our city, and brought the International Latino Film Festival with screenings at Skyline College and at Capuchino High School. I was a founding board member of the San Bruno Education Foundation. I assisted the foundation in getting it started, supported fundraising programs and events, and promoted the foundation by providing outreach to the community about its existence. I am a lifetime resident of San Bruno and a graduate of our school system, with my own children attending our public schools. I will confront the challenges of our district, working to ensure the budget adheres to our district goals, which are the LCAP. I will improve relationships with our teachers and staff by respecting, supporting, and valuing them, because they are the lifeblood of our district. I will continue to work to restore trust by offering honest and open communication to all members of our school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin Martinez.
Good school district staff for hosting tonight's forum. It's no exaggeration to say that our school district is at a crossroads, and you might expect to hear that during an election campaign or during a function such as tonight's. But I think really the issues are much larger than that. In some ways, we're like school districts all around the county and the state, tooling ourselves, adjusting to new curriculum in the Common Core, to new accountability and testing, a new funding model through the local control funding formula, and new ways to ensure our programs reach all students through the local control accountability plan, or LCAP. We're adjusting to our first uptick in revenue after years of sustained cuts. But we also have special challenges, like living among the most expensive areas in the state without revenues to match. Our diversity, it's our civic and school district strength, but meeting the diverse and pressing needs of our students and families is left to us. So what to make of all this? I think, first of all, it's been really one of the honors and privileges of my life to serve the community on the school board for the last 9 years, and in the current year as board president, and for the second time. And because I'm maybe not so new, I'd like to focus tonight on what we can do together, and in the hope that I can continue to earn your trust in the San Bruno Park School Board. But what we can do, that involves partnerships, relationships, and I'm really delighted that our dynamic new superintendent, we're focusing on seeking new partnerships and deepening old ones, including with the city and the county, with Skyline and Cappuccino, with the Chamber, the service clubs, our Education Foundation, on our new Community Foundation, and as well with a respectful and cooperative relationship with our teachers and classified associations. From there, we can seek broad input on our goals and developing a vision for what our elementary education can mean throughout San Bruno. This becomes a blueprint for matching our resources to our priorities. What a school district cannot do is raise significant ongoing revenue by ourselves. So this will mean making our programs as efficient as we can, and if need be, to seek the community's investment in our schools. I look forward to presenting my take on our work on behalf of San Bruno's young students tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it is time for the candidates to answer your questions. If you have not written your question, please do it now. Raise your hand so that the usher can pick up the written questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. I will vary the order in which the candidates are called on to speak. If a question is addressed to a particular candidate, that candidate will be asked to answer first. The other candidates may respond if they wish. And to the candidates, if you would like me to repeat the question, please feel free to ask. Okay, our first question will go to Mr. Andrew Mason. What is your strongest asset you can bring to the school board?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you. First off, as I mentioned, 16 years of biotechnology experience. And that's in the areas of manufacturing, wearing the full gowning, R&D, lab bench work, so science work, investigations in antibody drug development, which I think is really important to share with the future of San Bruno education, of San Bruno kids. And also, I've worked in facilities now for about almost 18 months, which we deal with capital projects. So these are several $1 million capital projects, and you can apply that to a variety of avenues. And we're talking about costs here, right? So you need someone who can manage costs. So ask the right questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jennifer Blanco?
Yes, I think what my assets have been and what I will continue to bring to the community is this has become a labor of love for me. This has become my passion, my true life's work. I do consider myself to be very determined, very motivated to do what's right for our community, and I am very persistent. For example, I didn't give up when we needed to make a change in our district with new leadership. I consistently knew one day that we were going to get the new leadership, so when the time came, I initiate the process to move forward to do the new superintendent search. So those are just a couple of my assets that I have brought and will continue to bring as your trustee.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin Martinez.
Hi, yes, thank you. I believe one of the strongest assets that I have really, I think is not just to say through experience, but I really think integrity in the sense that I say, and I'll always say what's my take on an issue, seek input from everyone, but also to kind of let everyone know what my reasoning is. It's not just a matter of votes, it's really where we stand in the community. In this, I think that we're a small enough community too that really we have to see ourselves as a whole. You know, I think in that sense, I think that my experience on the board, you know, I've had the opportunity to really look for those kinds of partnerships around town and to develop myself in the skills that I can bring back even to other board members in governance and operating, you know, openly and fairly with everyone. So I think those personal characteristics really are what I feel like bring best.
Thank you. Mr. Chuck Selnick.
Strongest assets is all in the eye of the beholder. For me, it started out with annexation of Portola Highlands, Pacific Heights, and Spyglass communities. We organized that community, we came together, and we got it into the San Bruno system. I helped somewhat in the beginning for the Marisol annexation program that was successful this year. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. When I got on the board, I served 6 years, we never had deficit spending issues at all, even though our budgets were extremely tight, because there's never been a district that's been governed with a lot of money. You move on to the sale of the Carl Sandburg site, $31 million, or just about $31 million. You talk about thinking outside of the box with different types of contracts that we've entered into, rebuilding of Parkside, was that money was used for. So really it comes down to, for me, seeing what's been done, and I hold myself accountable that, like I said, I've established successes in many ways, shapes, or forms, and I think I can continue to do that with the experience of education.
Thank you. The next question will first go to Ms. Blanco. How are you prepared to deal with the financial and social crisis still simmering from last year?
Well, I feel that that's already a work in progress as we speak with our new leadership. Many changes have been made with our new superintendent coming in with an open and honest two-way communication between our teachers union with our superintendent. She meets with them on the first Thursday of the month, so that in moving forward, everyone knows where we're at in regards to a budget. We have an open door policy finally, where it's not so much the community feels that information is being hidden from them. So moving forward, repairing and restoring the trust in the community is very important. And that has already, like I said, it's already a work in progress. It's going on as we speak, and it's improving every day.
Mr. Martinez?
So one thing I wanted to mention is that in terms of budgetary thing, it's to look at it as just last year's problems or something is kind of a shorter view than I think we need to take. We really have to understand that the district's financial situation is still quite tenuous. You know, we still have obligations greater than what we can fund. We can't raise revenues on our own. That's one of the things, you know, people deserve more than what we can pay frequently, but there's nothing much that we can do about that if we can't raise revenues. So in that sense, we really have to be careful. I think this is a time where we can focus our energies, really, I think, in setting goals with broad input from the community. That kind of sets the framework for those things that we see as the most important targets. And in those things, I think we can, you know, work towards. But we also have to try to look to expand our offerings. I think it really will be more through greater revenues as we see that things are trading off against each other so much. Thank you.
Mr. Zelnick?
As in, I believe it was March and April of last year, the County Office of Education came to this district, showed 5 consecutive years of over $2 million a year of deficit spending. That's a crisis. It just didn't happen last year. It's been happening. What I haven't seen yet is any actions on agendas that address the issue of how do we stop that from coming up at the end of a budget cycle. There's been nothing addressed to that. In my opinion, that's the first thing that I would do being elected, is to help work with the other board members to establish a process that we put into place, that we don't end up at the last minute saying we've made a mistake, I'm sorry. When you look at this issue, it is drastic. We've lost a lot of good staff. We've lost families, and we've lost the community's confidence. And the only way you're going to get that confidence back is to establish trust. Trust starts with, can I manage your money, your taxpayer dollars, correctly? That's what will start this process going forward. I believe I can help and do that.
Thank you. Mr. Mason?
I think what's critical is that we're dealing with physical assets as well. I mean, these are actual schools with turf grass in front and hedges and whatnot. I worked under a landscaping contractor in college. Irrigation systems, xeriscaping, landscaping, lowering your fixed operating costs and being mature about expenditures is really going to keep you fiscally responsible. And it's going to be transparent to the public. I think once you explain to people, hey, we've lowered costs in this amount, we could put that money back into schools, into education, into instruction. I think that's the most important thing, is that you put people's fears at ease, saying, hey, we can manage fixed operating costs and put that money back into schools. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will go to Mr. Martinez first. What specifically is the biggest challenge facing our schools in the next 5 years? And how do we handle that? Please be specific.
Interesting. So I think it's the, did you say it's a singular challenge?
Is the biggest challenge.
I think sometimes it's easy to say that for school boards that you always say, oh, that's just the money. But actually it is. I mean, in that sense of providing the resources that we know to the needs that we feel are most important. We do have a lot of competing interests that are all important goals and aims, but things like reducing class sizes or providing intervention or coaching, all of those things entail really providing more resources, and that turns out to then be typically a money issue. So I think it's really defining those priorities, and then really trying to obtain the resources to address them. It's really going to be a challenge, because I think we really have great vision for what we want in the district, but it's making that happen is going to be a real challenge.
Mr. Zelnick?
I think it's kind of, to me, looks to the point of how do we elevate the quality of education to kids? That, to me, is the most important piece of 5 years. I can put up with brown grass or hedges that aren't necessarily pruned too well, but how do we set up into place a fiscal basket, rainy day fund, some people call it, to provide for a quality education going forward for kids? And kids are really the focus here, because with those kids as quality educations comes supporting a good work staff, not just teachers, office managers, principals, groundskeepers, janitors. All those people are highly needed to make a successful school district. So I think the biggest challenge we have is setting a goal and a commitment to providing every child with the education that will make them successful, high school, trade school, college, and to be productive adults here in the United States.
Mr. Mason?
Sorry. Can you repeat the question
Yes.
again? Thank you.
What specifically is the biggest challenge facing our schools in the next 5 years? And how do we handle that? Please be specific.
Well, in particular, yes, definitely it's the budget. I mean, we've got to look at our expenditures. We have to look at our funding sources. I'm sitting with 3 candidates. You guys have all, either you're on the board or you were on the board previously. You've got to allow new people in there to look at costs and look at, as I mentioned, landscaping costs. We're dealing with physical assets. The money you sink into dealing with maintenance, as far as use of materials when you build construction, you've got to make sure that you use the right materials. You can HVAC systems and water systems. Make sure you're efficient as possible. Thank you.
Ms. Blanco?
I would say that besides the budget and make sure that we're no longer deficit spending, I would say that it's our retention of our teachers and staff. This past year, we had a very we had a really tough and rough year, and we had a huge exodus of a lot of teachers, and we lost a lot of good teachers. But I do acknowledge the teachers that chose to stay in our district, and I feel that we need to capitalize on that and to find ways to keep them, and I think that that's the way we're going to keep them, make sure that we support them, to provide very informative and educational professional development, and to also work forward to providing them another raise. So teacher retention and teacher and staff retention, I think, is the issue that we need to work towards, to not have another huge exodus again.
Thank you. The next question will go to Mr. Zelnick first. Where do you think are the areas where we can cut costs while not affecting the classrooms in our schools?
Being a person that has seen the budget but doesn't participate it on a monthly basis, as a trustee might have some knowledge that I don't have. I think, as Mr. Mason has said, containing cost. I know that from past budgets over the last year that I've looked at, we have a lot of money going out to outside services. And are those outside services really something that we can do within with the employees that we have? I'm not going to say this magical statement that's going to make everything go great. The point is, you have to look line by line at these budgets. And I noticed when I was on the board, there'd be certain legal expenses that were outrageous, and we'd bring that down and say, hey, that's got to stop. But I also think what's important is that we set up a system so that on every board meeting, when we look to approve the expenditures, we have a roadmap that tells us, are we heading outside of that parameter of budget that we wanted to stay within? And if we are heading outside that parameter, why? And do we need to change that?
Mr. Mason?
I think the key is definitely services. So, for instance, if you run special programs and you're busing kids across the district or to different schools, that's a problem. I mean, we should be bringing these services in-house and managing them appropriately. And really, we have the power to do it. We just need to sit down and look at the books and say, well, how much money are we spending on, say, certain aspects of, say, special ed and whatnot? Like, we need to make those programs valuable, because they provide a value to society, and we need to make them. We need to make sure we care for our students and that we manage the costs as far as moving and transport. Transport's a waste. Thank you.
Ms. Blanco?
Thanks a lot, Andy. I'm going to speak about special ed. Currently, actually, we are looking at a lot of ideas. A lot of ideas are being explored. Transportation is one of them that Andy just mentioned, and also a couple of programs that we're looking into taking it back from the county and bringing it in-house, and also to sell those seats so as other districts can pay us to provide the service. And I think that is what we're looking and working towards currently.
Mr. Martinez?
Yeah, actually, I think also really to make the case that for things like special education, we're really responsible to meet the needs of every student, one at a time. Their plans are not open to the public, to the board, or anything. There's our meeting specific needs. That's our contract with those students. But there are certain ways when you aggregate that up to how the district provides those things that we should be able to provide, kind of plan that out better in terms of those services that we can perform in-house. Like we said, transportation, things like that. We have to be careful. It can be the whipping boy kind of topic I think from a point of ignorance. We have to say we have to meet the needs of those individual students in the contract that we make for them, but do it in the most efficient way. And until I think we're able to do that, the amount that we're spending for this right now is kind of taking away flexibility in the district for almost any other kind of function that we might do. So that makes it that kind of a priority.
Thank you. The next question will go to Mr. Mason first. Some schools suffered the loss of 3/4 of their staff this year, particularly certificated teachers. What will you do to combat loss of senior trained teachers?
I think there's definitely there needs to be a more healthy conversation as far as like what can we do as a district to retain teachers and staff? I mean, if you look at other cities, they talk about, student housing or teacher housing or, some sort of benefits. I know there was a first-time home buyer program for teachers. Like, so you invest in teachers to stay in your community. I think that it's really critical that we reach out to them and that we have this conversation back and forth and say, what can we do? What can we do to meet the future needs, to retain the staff and teachers? Thank you.
Ms. Blanco?
So on the 22nd of September, our district, we had a strategic planning retreat up at Skyline College. And after our work of the day was done, the facilitator we went around and she asked, well, describe in one word, how do you feel about what happened today of our working together? And our SBA, our teacher union president, said that she finally felt heard, and she felt like she was important and that she was part of this process. And I think that that's what the teachers always wanted to be, was to be heard, to be supported, to be acknowledged, to be valued. And working with our teachers union, that's going to build trust and restore the relationship to where it should be between teachers, our superintendent, district staff, and also amongst the board members and the community.
Mr. Martinez?
So, as Jennifer too, I think working a cooperative relationship with the teachers and where they feel respected and informed is critical. One of the things I don't think the people recognized last year was actually the extent of cuts that we needed to make midway through the year was the extent of it actually came as a surprise to us, rightly or wrongly. But I think the effect of that was really kind of like shock and surprise on a lot of people's part, and I think that really hurt. But I think also then to really say increasing salaries is terrific, but it also is going to come at costs that we need to find, we need to make that a district-wide priority to make that happen, and not just leave it at what people deserve, but what we really are dedicated to provide.
Mr. Seltnick.
People leaving is a choice. It's a choice, unfortunately, that was forced upon them to leave, as I've talked to several of them. They loved what they did. They loved the community that they were in. But for themselves, they got tired of the same old, non-active, non-budgetary controls, and they decided enough is enough. We spent somewhere, I think, about $4,500 to have this seminar up at Skyline College, and the head of the teachers union says, I think I've been heard. They've been here for 5 years, deficit spending. What, didn't anybody stop to ask them? I don't think we need to spend money like that away from what the core issue is. I think we need these new teachers, and maybe we can lure some of the old ones back. But I think these new teachers want to feel a part of the process and not dumped on. They want to believe that their voice can be heard, and I pledge that I will take in that type of activity because I want to know if Common Core is working.
Thank you. The next question will go to Ms. Blanco first. Under what situations do you believe it is appropriate to close, consolidate schools, and would you be willing to take that difficult step if appropriate?
I know that the community has heard that we might be discussing closing the school again. If we do need to close the school, it would be if we're seriously declining in our enrollment. But I don't foresee that we will be closing the school or even having discussions of closing the school, only because we have this MOU with our teachers union, agreeing that we're going to lower class size by one child in the next few years. So in order to do that, I don't think we're going to close the school. And also with all this housing development that's going on, We have a potential housing development up by Skyline College. We also have at the El Camino Old Theater on El Camino Real, this huge apartment complex. So where are we going to put our kids? We're going to need to have space. And for me, I don't believe that we're going to be closing the school.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes. Well, one of the things I think we pledged to do as a school district anyway is to provide the operations in terms of the numbers of schools as efficiently as we can. We have to. There's, so I think I'll say maybe frequently that there are a lot of trade-offs. In this case, there is something that can be said that can be a trade-off in the sense that what you put into keeping a small school going is actually taking away from some of your leverage or what you can do in other circumstances of things that you want to provide. So I think looking at the schools, we really should look at the whole configuration of schools. Which grades do we need in which neighborhoods, perhaps, ways to restack the schools or something like that provides, a reason to look for either to validate what we have or to look for other opportunities that we have that are changes, and change is difficult, but perhaps changes that free up resources to be used in making a more enriching experience.
Mr. Selden?
School closure is the big white elephant in the classroom at all times. How do you address that? It's on a cost analysis basis. Looking at class size reduction, okay, if you have 2,500 kids in the district, you need X number of teachers, X number of principals, X number of support staff. You close a school, what do you eliminate? Maybe a custodian, maybe an office manager, maybe a principal, depending on how you reconfigure those classes to go forward. When you look at the potential of where the growth is going to come and you say, well, maybe we're going to get more from this area, that area. It's been proven that out of the Marisol area, there's only less than a dozen, maybe 13 kids that come out of the 70 homes. The Navy site, we hardly have any kids out of that site. Those homes that are being built today aren't conducive to families with more than one child. So where we're at with closing a school, it's really in numbers, but I think if you're going to close a school, the people that are going to be closed need to go to somewhere better, not just a trade-off. I mean, give them something better to look forward to go to.
Thank you. Mr. Mason?
I think it's a sad day when you have to close a school, especially these small neighborhood schools in San Bruno. San Bruno is a beautiful town. People love their kids. They love the sports teams. They love the education the neighborhood schools provide. I would close a school if it came down to the wire and we said, cost analysis, it doesn't make sense. The economies of scale don't add up. It's an aging building. And to Chuck's point, offer the parents something different. Offer them a better school down the road with better programs and something we can be proud of and something we can show that if you close a school, you do it fast and you're transparent about it. And there's no slow-moving angst that builds in the community. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next question will go to Mr. Martinez first. How do you think the SBPSD could be more desirable for San Bruno parents to decide to send their children to SBPSD public schools and not private schools?
Well, that's on the one hand, that's a family choice. So it goes to what they see the values that the schools hold for them. I think one element, though, that we could do really is one of the advantages we have in San Bruno is we do have a lot of small schools that are really identified with their neighborhood. And so in that regard, I think it's opening up the schools, making them vibrant to families the whole time that there's raising their young family. That becomes like almost the social thing for the neighborhood is what they do from the schools, whether they're involved with events, open houses, just kind of the fields, all of that kind of stuff that makes the neighborhood and the school identify with themselves. I think for us, I know our tie together with fellow parents tied us closer to San Bruno than any other thing, and I think that's I think many people have that opportunity. So
Mr. Zelnick?
Could I ask for a clarification of the initials?
Oh,
I
San
know
Bruno.
that somebody
How
wrote
do you
that in
think the San Bruno Park School District could be more desirable for San Bruno parents to decide to send their children to the public schools and not private schools?
When I served on the board, I was always astonished that the number of kids coming into the district, there was almost 3 times as many leaving the district. And it was always puzzling to me as to why. And I asked many times, why aren't we contacting these people, finding out what it is their likes or dislikes are that they leave our district? I mean, I think it's a pretty damn good district. And never got anywhere with that. I think what parents under the public education system founded by Thomas Jefferson want the ability to choose what's best for their child. And when everything else is out there, they're going to make the choice they feel is best. What we have to do is demonstrate and show them that this is the place you want to be. And this is what we can do for your child. And you cannot just talk. You have to demonstrate and show by the success. I look at San Bruno as a great district. Why? I have 2 children that are well educated, got their foundation in the San Bruno system. That's what I base that we want people to come to.
Mr. Mason?
I'm biased because I'm a product of public school education. I really believe it goes beyond the student. It's about the social contract. We're all in this thing together, sort of thing. What I would like to say is you got to create a draw. I think that, San Bruno, we're not just competing with Millbrae or Burlingame. You're competing with the world. When it comes to science education and engineering and math and all these things that I love to talk about, you've got to create your programs to be so robust and so beautiful that when people drive by in a car, they say, I want my kids to go there, to public school in San Bruno. Thank you.
Ms. Blanco?
So I believe what private schools offer students is parents need to participate, and the programs that are offered at these private schools, I think, is the draw for a lot of our parents. But if we're going to be truly promoting our district, marketing our district, I think for me it's more about programs that are going to be offered. Currently, I know that the San Bruno Education Foundation one of their goals is to provide music to our 4th and 5th graders so that when they come into Parkside, they can take band, because Parkside, we have an award-winning, amazing band, so that they're ready coming in. And I know that the principal at Parkside is working on bringing French. We already have Spanish, but he wants to bring in French, so when they go into CAP, they'll be ready with the first year of French. So it's also about electives at Parkside, and another thing too, for me, it's parent participation. I think parents want to stay in a school community where there's a high parent participation rate.
Thank you. The next question will go to Mr. Zelnick first. What specific requests would you make to the San Bruno Community Foundation? What programs would you fund?
What type of request would I make to the San Bruno Education Foundation?
Community Foundation.
Huh? Oh, the PG&E money. Let's put it that way. Okay. I think the thing is that in that whole settlement with the city, I think in a collaborative way, the school district has a lot of property, a lot of land, and the city has a certain amount. So we kind of have one part of the puzzle and they have one part of the puzzle. And I think there's a way to work this out that can benefit both sides. I know that a year or so ago there was an agreement entered into with the city and San Bruno about field usages and maintenance and those types of things. But to make a specific request, I think that would benefit both the city and the school district would be to address issues of public access to athletic fields for kids. A lot of kids play a lot of sports in San Bruno, and some are really good at it. I've coached them. But they play on terrible fields. And I think that would be, the focus is what programs can the city offer to the kids to use the fields that the school district technically owns with the public, and put that together into a package. So that's what I'd ask for, is towards fields.
Mr. Mason?
I think what's key is infrastructure. I mean, I know in attending some of the Community Foundation meetings, a lot of it came down to, put a cover on the pool. We need to redo the library. I think a lot of shared services and shared construction projects could be really beautiful. I mean, libraries, as far as there's the maker movement, so 3D printing and show people different lab space and show kids. There's beautiful programs that we've funded via the foundation that can benefit public school education here in San Bruno. So let's round it out. Let's build things. Let's talk about shared services, lab space, whatnot. So thank you. Build things. Thanks.
Ms. Blanco?
I believe I attended all 3 of the town hall meetings, and I believe it was the second one that I actually participated in it. That was held at Bel Air School. And I actually was a facilitator that had to go and report on what the group had come up with. I had mentioned the Big Lift. The Big Lift is a program that is through the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. And we actually applied for the Big Lift monies, but because our district, unfortunately, we were not able to match the $10,000. We were not one of the chosen ones. But I do know that there currently is a space for one more school district, and I believe that we are the district that is going to get that next slot. So hopefully, maybe the money we can ask for the PG&E fund, the Community Foundation, is perhaps having them help us match the Big Lift funds. The Big Lift is a program that is a literacy program, and or if not, we can implement maybe a program. We ask for funds for a college preparedness class program at Parkside, or also the fields.
Mr. Martinez?
So, yeah, I would say one of the things I was really impressed with the Community Foundation was that they're looking, I believe, not just as dispensing a set amount of money, but really they have a lot of talent and dedication to task to kind of keep going as a foundation that can identify with San Bruno's needs and meet them, in broader ways, perhaps just beyond just strict endowments like that. The Big Lift is actually, as Jennifer says, is tremendously important. The communities that were funded the first time through were able to demonstrate that kind of partnership with their broader communities. And the aim of that is to ensure that children are reading by 3rd grade and finding that's just that, and providing services to make that so. And so I think that might be the kind of function that the foundation could do, but I think it's really establishing a partnership with hopefully, I think, an ongoing mission on their part, and they can that way too than just those one-time needs.
Thank you. The next question will go to Mr. Mason first. There are more than one question on special education and the budget. So, what would be your plans for the special education budget?
Well, I talked earlier about transport. So we are spending a lot of money. If you look at the county numbers, we spend more on special ed than other cities in the county. And I think a lot of it is transportation, but also like if we're using aides and the aides have to go from school to school, that's not value added to the students. I think that special ed is one of those programs we should really stick behind and work it out and fix it. So, thank you.
Ms. Blanco?
This is Mr. Blanco. So I did mention special ed. Some years ago, our district, we had a special education study done. And in speaking with our Associate Superintendent of Business Services, that's something that he's looking into revisiting to see what the suggestions were that we previously did not really dive into and make those recommendations into our school district. I know one of them was a suggestion was to hire a director of special ed. That has been done. Transportation, again, I will mention transportation, looking into that. And also the programs that we can offer in-house rather than going out of our own district.
Mr. Martinez?
Yeah, so we did touch on some of the things for special education efficiency, particularly around transportation. There's one little bit of how special education works that I guess almost in the acronyms it kind of rolls off your tongue, but when you take it down a little bit, I think the promise for students in special education is to provide them a free and appropriate education in the least restrictive environment. So in that sense, it's it's not that we choose to have them here or not. We owe it to those students to have them in the least restrictive environment that works for them. And I think I think our goal is to have that provided within the district, within their neighborhoods if possible. We can't always, our schools are not big enough to take care of all of the various needs of students at each site. But I think as a community, embrace special education, embrace the students, embrace their needs, and provide their San Brunans too, and really make that least restrictive environment be something here that's local for them, and in doing that, I think we'll gain the efficiency as well.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Ms. Blanco first.
Did I get that
Oh,
question?
I'm sorry.
yeah.
You didn't? I'm sorry.
No
Mr.
problem.
Zelnick.
No problem. Special ed studies. A former board member, Chris Kiley's here in the audience tonight, and he knows top-notch about this because after we sold the property for $30 million, eventually it was moved towards getting a special ed study done, and yet with all the money we had, nobody did anything after the study was done. It was kind of like, why did we spend the money for a study and you didn't implement anything? Special ed is derived from the children of our community who have needs outside of the normal classroom. That could be something as simple as my son that needed a little extra time in taking tests or getting a spelling list a week early, to children that just cannot physically help themselves in wheelchairs or MS or whatever their issues are. Special ed is not that simple. It's very complex, but we looked at one point that we had enough grounds to move forward in litigation, and we didn't have the votes to do that with. The bottom line is that looking at your costs and containing your costs within special ed is important, but you can't choose which kids are here. There are San Bruno kids.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Ms. Blanco first. What is your experience with technology in the schools? What do you see for the future for technology in the schools?
Well, I do know that we do have a STEM school that focuses on teaching the students within the STEM perspective, and I know that we do have a technology committee moving forward. I know that some of our schools do need an upgrade so that they can keep up with technology programs. I know that at Parkside, from what I understand, as far as technology, my concern with technology is making sure that our students know how to type first. In college, I've seen a lot of students still typing with the one finger, and my concern with technology moving forward is making sure that our kids actually use the keyboard, and also to make sure that we provide our students with up-to-date laptops, Chromebooks, or whatever is that needs so we can move forward, and also make sure that every class is provided with the right technology.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
One of the things to just point out with technology is, I guess that technology, there are tools, yes, they're not an end in itself, but they're the means by which students are really embracing and will be embracing their kind of content questions. That's where they will find out where those kinds of things that you needed to have an encyclopedia or a very smart teacher for. I think the focus with technology, though, is that now it's becoming a seamless part of their lives. And in that way, I think the schools' work with it is really the burden has shifted to really those kinds of critical thinking kinds of skills to discern what's valuable and not in a highly technological age. That's actually an area in which I work. But I think there's another thing, too, for students is that it's evolving, but those kinds of critical skills, kinds of things, that role for teachers in that is it's going to endure.
Mr. Zelnick?
Could you repeat the question just so I get it clear?
Yes. What is your experience with technology in schools, and what do you see for the future for technology in schools?
My experience in technology in schools started about 22 years ago. Portola Elementary was the first school in the state of California with a backbone of 2 fiber optic lines, 6 computers in each classroom, IBM's 30 pieces of software. I'll tell you a real quick, cute little story. A kid I caught going into a teacher's program because the teacher really didn't understand it. And I said, "What are you looking at?" He goes, I'm trying to find more games. See, he associated learning with games because that's what the software was designed to do. Now jump forward to fiber optics, laptops, and everything else. What a world has changed in about 22 years. My point is, technology is a delivery mechanism that works well with most students today. My 3-year-old grandson knows how to use a phone better than I do, and an iPad. But that being said, it's a way to entice them to the delivery of educational things, and they want to go back for more. I don't see too many kids back in my day wanting to run back for their school books just to look something up. So technology is a mechanism to attract kids to stronger learning. That's what it's all about.
Mr. Mason.
This is right in my wheelhouse. I have 16 years of bioprocess manufacturing. What I think is really important to me is it's not so much coding. Coding is very important, but coding, like for a PLC or an automated system, it codes to do something, to manufacture something. Manufacturing is not a dirty word. If it's done cleanly and efficiently, you can show kids how to do anything, how to do basic chemistry experiments and make processes and learn things. I think learning versus teaching is really the key. The maker movement, 3D printers, this is the way of the future. Show kids there's an end process that you're working on. So I'm really passionate about that. Thank you.
In order to end on time, this will be the last question, and then we will have closing statements. And the last question will start with Mr. Martinez. It is, how would you improve parent outreach and involvement?
Well, I think that is one of the critical areas for the school district to focus on. Really, I think the parents are attached to the schools based on ready their own student, that kind of, and I think growing out from there, that kind of attachment to the school is really just finding through PTAs or others, what is it that attaches them to the school. When they're attached to this, this kind of partnership coming out from the classroom to the school, we already see that actually builds into greater neighborhood involvement, greater social thing for the students and families as well. I guess it's a complicated issue, but I would just say that it's a welcoming environment at the school goes a really long way towards making parents feel comfortable and attached.
Mr. Zelnick?
As my neighbor up the street who has a second grader says, I don't understand this Common Core. And he went to the teacher and the principal at the school last year and got some help on it, and my daughter tutored his son. But the point was, how do we connect them? One I think has been successful that I've been involved with in the past is bringing in speakers that talk about the 3 ways children learn. They learn auditory, sight, and mechanical learners by writing and doing things. Helping our parents be a partner in the education of their children, because I haven't seen a child yet, at least my 2 didn't come with instructions on how to help them. And I didn't know a lot of things, and being involved, I got to learn things. But I think what the outreach is making the parents feel a part of the education for their child. A lot of parents have not exceeded certain levels in education for their children, and their children do take the lead in some things in their lives. But we have to get them in to say, here, we want you to be an active partner, and this is how we're going to do it. There are many people that can come and speak free of charge to communities, to members of the schools, to help them be a partner with their kids' education.
Mr. Mason?
I think 2 things. One, definitely you have to show an end user process. So they're parents, right? They have a job. Show how education fits into that job. I mentioned manufacturing earlier. These are things we need to connect in society as far as like, here's your kids are learning math. It's for this process. They can be used for all kinds of things. So showing a relatable skill set as far as a career or vocation in your life is very important. Second thing I think is community outreach. I think this is no longer a monolingual culture. I speak Spanish, bad Portuguese, a little Farsi and whatnot. I think we need to do community outreach. We should be proud of that, saying, hey, we're on the board here. We care about you. This is your democracy. Participate. We want you here. Thank you.
Ms. Blanco?
parent engagement actually is one of the priorities in our LCAP, in the local accountability LCAP plan. We actually have a whole section on that, and we have discussed and adopted in our LCAP to hire parent liaisons, to have them at every site, and eventually one at the district office. And I believe that having parent liaisons at each of the sites will help increase parent participation, because they will be the person that will bridge that home to school communication, to strengthen the relationships, to make sure that parents understand how important their involvement is, how important it is to attend school functions, how important it is to attend parent-teacher conferences, or to come and spend the day in the class and make sure that they're getting the homework, or if they don't understand, to make sure that they get the help if the parent can't, the parent doesn't know how to do the homework to help their own child. So to strengthen that,
Thank you. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes for a closing statement. We will reverse the order from that of the opening statements, so we will begin with Mr. Martinez. But as the candidates take a couple of minutes to gather their thoughts, I would like to mention the following. You can find additional information about the candidates on the League's Smart Voter website, www.smartvoter.org. All candidates have been invited to enter their information and to link to their own websites. Remember to mail in your ballot. It's a mail-in election. Mail in your ballot on or before November 3rd, and encourage others to vote as well. There are other places around the county where you can drop your ballot off as well. You don't have to mail it in, you can drop it off. All the information is in your ballot, which I believe everybody should have received by now. I hope so. Okay, we will now begin with closing statements with Mr. Kevin Martinez.
One thing I'd like to emphasize, and thank you, is that we do have strong schools, and we really are coming at this from a position of strength. We've worked through, I think, some really difficult news. We're still working with struggles and competing needs, and we want to just emphasize that we're developing along with it's a human enterprise. It's a growth kind of mindset that we have in pursuing where the district is going. We're really looking to that in developing goals with the community to really make our promise for what we're to do. Now, I guess one of the things I want to emphasize too is that we are stronger together. And one of the things in working with children, I think we have to realize and just kind of stop ourselves and remember is that this is really, it's a joyful enterprise. It's foundational in their lives. And when you talk to children, it's like their goals really do matter, and they're really delightful conversations to have. But I think it's really what we have to step back and realize too is just that enabling them to pursue their dreams, and making them seize their own opportunities is really what this is all about. That's where this goes. Making them strong high school students is the best that I think an elementary district can do. But really in kind of recognizing that their life dreams matter, and our place along the way is to give them really strong foundations socially and academically. And I believe the San Bruno Park School District does that, and I'm really proud of what's done. It's not just the sum of the sets of news. It's really what's accomplished school by school, classroom by classroom. And anyway, I really respectfully do ask for the trust again and for your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Blanco.
so this is the part where we say why we'd like to get on the board, whether we're incumbents and we want to get reelected, or we're challengers trying to get on the board. For me, the why, to ask for your support and your consideration to reelect me to this position, is now that we have new leadership in the district. We have leadership who is bringing about change, not only change, but a positive change. And I do feel that we are on this upward movement by working together And also, we have a superintendent who's willing to collaborate, partner, work to restore the community's trust back into the district. And for me, I want to be part of that change. We have come through all these years of prior leadership where we had a lot of problems, and distrust and mistrust and communication has not been two-way but one-way, and I want to be part of the change. And I'd like to say that our district is risen from the ashes, so to speak, and that I am very enthusiastic about our new administration, and that I'd like the opportunity to continue serving you, our families, and our students, our children of this district. Thank you.
Mr. Mason.
Thank you. I'd like to thank again the League of Women's Voters and my fellow San Bruno residents. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm one of 7 kids. I know how to work in teams. I think the ability to collaborate is by far the most important thing, not only at the district level and with our new superintendent, but also with the city of San Bruno, because there's a lot of shared services and work that's done by both entities, and how we manage those relationships is really going to be critical, fiscally and just relationship-wise. One thing I didn't mention earlier is in college I was an after-school tutor, and I didn't do it for the money. I did it because I believe in public school education, and I'm really passionate about it. I think one of the things I could talk about manufacturing and landscaping all day, but at the end of the day, the best thing you can teach your kids is acceptance of diversity around you in your society and empathy for others. And I think that's really a beautiful thing that public schools offer, is that you're all in it together. And I really believe that I'm ready for this. I'm ready for the, I have an MBA, I've studied business, but I've also done a variety of jobs in society in the Bay Area. And I'm proud to say I've taken bits and pieces from those, and I've learned a lot. And I'm ready to do this thing. So thank you very much. Thanks for your support.
Mr. Selnick.
What you have here tonight, I believe, is different personalities and different perspectives, different backgrounds. I can sit up here and be a little stern in my voice or very strong-willed, but I am a person that I believe can work with people. Unfortunately, I am one of 9, so I got you beat by a couple. But what you did learn is, and I was in the middle, is you cooperate. The end result at the end of the day is being successful as a group, and that's what I believe I can bring back to the board. You have a contrast here of people. You have 2 that have been on the board for 8 and 9 years. I served prior at 6 years. Andrew's new, and everybody has their strength and weakness. I think you have to grade us on what we've done and what we've proven we can do. Not that should be the whole picture, but I think it's important to say, I want to be part of the growing future. Well, when you had control of the past and you didn't make that change, how do you want to still be part of the growing future? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. In the end result to it is this: I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for it because I feel that I can bring the knowledge that I have on school funding, whether it be special ed, transportation, construction. I have a background of managing a lot of people, whether it was new car dealerships, private industries, million-dollar industries, working with people to accomplish a goal. That's where we succeed at the end of the day. But the true goal here is trying to retain the teachers that we have now, because I really believe the change in the staffing did hurt the kids this year. They've lost out for 5 years, and now this rebuilding process, they're going to be short again. I don't think it's fair to a bunch of young, impressionable children that they can't look to the stars and say, I want to be this, but I can't because I don't have the ability to read properly, do math, spell, whatever. Let's give them the opportunity that we all as adults realize that maybe we wish we had a little more better opportunities in our lives, and let's give that to our kids for a better future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I ask you to join me in applauding and thanking the candidates for coming this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and membership is open to both men and women of voting age. If you are interested in helping in your community with forums such as this, brochures are available at the back of the room with information about joining the League. For those of you at home, call the League phone number at 650-342-5853 or check the League website. And I'd like to thank the audience for coming out and
Yes,
supporting
good
the
questions.
candidates.